Auto Entry Control Low Energy Swing Door Automatic Door Operator Presentation. Hi, I'm Olga here with Marketing at Security Door Controls. Today I'd like to introduce our Auto Entry Control SDC's new swing door operator. This low energy operator can be activated with the press of a switch. Virtually any form of a known act can be used to initiate the operator, making it not only ADA compliant, but also makes integration with existing systems extremely easy. The non-handed electromechanical operator may be used with electric latch retraction exit devices, electric strikes, and other locking systems. The operator can provide power to a device up to 500 milliamps through its own board. A time delay function is built directly into the control system, eliminating the need for supplemental relay or controls. The Auto Entry Control is equipped with external function switches to provide basic controls. The illuminated power switch is visible at night and controls power to the operator motor. With its power off, the Auto Entry Control functions as a manual closer. The mode control switch has 3 positions and provides control of the powered function of the operator. The day mode will engage the operator for normal powered operation with activation by a push plate or signal from other known act devices. The night mode disables the operator for normal powered operation. However, the operator can be configured to receive activation signals from a secure activation device, such as a card reader, generally from one side. Switching to hold open mode will power the door, holding it open indefinitely. Looking inside the operator, you will notice these sliding rails. This feature makes the motor assembly removable and provides easy access to the back plate for mounting the operator. Once the back plate is securely mounted, the motor assembly is easily reinstalled and secured to the rails without any excess lifting, and therefore can be installed single-handed. The automatic setup button allows for easy setup without the need to program. The self-learning feature of the logic board will go through its learning cycle, allowing you to easily add a soft stop to prevent the door from hitting any objects or walls. During the opening cycle, an obstruction function efficiently reduces the possibility of personal injury, as well as preventing damage to the door or surrounding structures. After a stall timeout, the door will close. A power close option is available to control exterior openings that may require additional closing force, for example, wind conditions which would prevent the door from closing completely. This feature is great to reduce heating and cooling loss at the door and will save energy and money. Another great benefit of the operator is the momentary pull before opening, which relieves pressure for latching hardware. The Auto Entry Control is available as push or pull arm application, and we offer an option with both arms for in-field adaptability depending on the door conditions encountered. The unit is available in single or double door configuration and available in aluminum or bronze. For additional safety and risk mitigation, we recommend the optional Auto IR Presence Sensor to prevent the door from closing on any person or object in the swing path. SDC's comprehensive line of Knowing Act activation devices complement the Auto Entry Control to help meet ADA compliance. In conclusion, low-energy swing door operators provide hands-free, low-power point-of-entry control, which, according to research, is preferred by 98% of consumers polled for their preference on automatic versus manual doors. Automatic operators are recommended for hospitals, airports, hotels, shopping mall entrances, as well as retail stores and anywhere where handicap access, safety, security, and convenience and ease of hands-free door opening is a desired feature. To learn more about the Auto Entry Control or any of our other products, please visit us at sdcsecurity.com. The obvious application is for ADA compliance, but anywhere that low-energy, hands-free access is required for convenience is also a great application. Hospitals, long-term care facilities, commercial and retail, even clean rooms are great candidates for low-energy door operators. First, who uses the door? Does it need to be ADA compliant? Is it a high-traffic door? Not every low energy operator is intended for use in a high traffic situation. Does the door need to be disabled after hours? Is security an issue? Does the opening require electronic access control? If so, does the auto operator need to integrate with the system? Second, determine egress and safety requirements. If ADA compliance is needed, ensure we comply with all the mandates of the code and select the appropriate actuation and safety devices. Do we need both internal and external activation devices? How many and how will they be mounted? Can they be hardwired or do they need to be wireless? Do I need safety sensors on the doors so the door doesn't close on someone approaching the door? Finally, factors which are normally least in importance, like aesthetics, should be determined. This presentation consists of 3 primary sections. First, there are the ADA standards governing the installation of low-energy door operators. Second are specific features and benefits of SDC's auto entry control operator. Third is a review of the accessories available for auto entry control. Low-energy operator installations are governed by ANSI Standard A156.19. It's important to note that full-energy operators are governed by a separate ANSI standard not covered here today. Our focus is on low-energy operators. Here are some key points defined by ANSI 156.19. Low-energy operator installations need to be activated by a knowing act. The opening and closing speeds cannot exceed a certain time. When the door is fully open, it needs to stay open for a certain amount of time. The amount of opening and closing force cannot be greater than a specific amount. We need to meet certain floor space requirements. Specific signage needs to be on the door. A knowing act means that a person must consciously initiate the powered opening either by pushing a button or activating some other type of switch, whether it be a wired switch or a no-touch contactless switch. It may also be activated by a keypad, some other type of access control device, or a key switch. This switch needs to be a maximum distance of 12 feet away from the center of the door, but preferably within 1 to 5 feet away so a person has sufficient time to get through the opening before the door starts closing. The opening speed has to be set such that a fully closed door opens to backcheck in 3 seconds or longer. The backcheck function slows the door in its opening cycle so that it can't damage doors or walls adjacent to the doorway. The SDC operator backcheck is set to 80 degrees and cannot be adjusted. The last 10 degrees cannot open any faster than in 1 to 2 seconds. The closing speed has to be set such that a fully open door closes to latch check in 3 seconds or longer. The last 10 degrees to a fully closed position cannot be less than 1.5 seconds. The hold open time delay is the amount of time that the door stays at the fully open position and cannot be less than 5 seconds. The only exception to that is the push or pull or push and go application. If the push-pull feature is available, then manually opening the door will cause the operator to assist in opening. In this case, the door doesn't need to stay open for 5 seconds. It can be a minimum of 3 seconds. For low-energy applications, the operating force on opening or closing cannot exceed 15-pound force measured at 1 inch from the edge of the door at any point during the opening or closing. If an obstruction is detected, the SDC auto entry control will automatically reverse direction. A door-mounted presence sensor may also be installed to avoid door collisions. Refer to ANSI Standard A117.1 for accessibility guidelines. The diagram shows a minimum requirement of 32 inches for the door opening. The actuation device has to be at least 24 inches away from the swing of the door. Don't forget, the operator activation switch should be no more than 5 feet away from the door to allow sufficient time to get through the door. For any automatic door, there is a standard signage that needs to be visible from both sides of the door. The ANSI standard specifies the mounting height, diameter, font size, and color. For example, if you're dealing with a push application, you'd have this automatic caution door sign on the pull side to let someone on that side know that the door may open automatically. The activate switch to operate sign lets the occupants know that the door's not going to open by itself, but has to be activated by a knowing act. Normally, you would have one of these blue stickers at each activation switch. We recommend that the low energy operator be inspected at the time of installation and at a minimum annually thereafter by someone who's certified by the American Association of Automatic Door Manufacturers, or AAADM. This is just a recommendation, but not required for low energy operators. However, it is a requirement for high energy operators. The next section covers the features and benefits of the SDC Auto Entry Control Operator. The operators are available for single door openings or pairs of doors in different configurations. The most common application is usually a push application, either a single push application or a pair of doors with two push. All push and pull configurations are easily interchangeable in the field by using different types of arm assemblies. The unit is non-handed, so you don't have to specify left hand or right hand. The standard housings are available for 36-inch, 42-inch, or 48-inch openings. The operator is a surface-mounted, not concealed, and is designed to be used on hinged doors or center-pivoted doors. Every operator model starts with the word auto followed by a number 1, 2, or 3. That first digit tells us the arm configuration for push or for a pull. If it's a 3, it's a double egress operator. The next two digits indicate the size of the opening. It's 36, 42, or 48 for a single door, 72, 84, or 96 for a pair of doors. If you specify anything above a 48-inch opening, we're going to assume it's a pair of doors. We can do custom length openings or single operators in double length housings, but you'll have to consult the factory for those part numbers. The last digit designates the finish of the housing, either a V for clear aluminum, which is the standard, or X for a dark bronze finish. A couple of examples would be an Auto 1, 3, 6V, which is probably the most common model we'll sell. A push arm operator for a 36-inch opening in clear aluminum finish. One thing to note is that the housing itself is 3 inches longer than the opening size we specify. For example, an Auto 136V is for a 36-inch opening, but the size of the housing itself is actually 39 inches. In most cases, we take the size specified and add 3 inches to the housing. We do this so the housing overlaps the hinge side by 1.5 inches. Ideally, this will give us 1.5 inches of overlap on the other side just to make it look symmetrical. Although an Auto 3 usually designates a double egress operator, we also have an Auto 3 model for a single door opening, which includes both a push arm and a pull arm for our distributors who like to reduce their stock. If the opening size is specified at 48 inches or less, this will designate a single door opening. For example, an Auto 3, 6V would be a single 36-inch door operator with both a push arm and a pull arm. The installer chooses which arm configuration best fits their application. There are 4 spindle sizes available. The push arm and the pull arm each include a standard length spindle. The pull arm comes with a 20mm spindle and the push arm comes with a 35mm spindle. If, for whatever reason, the operator cannot be mounted in the standard fashion and the operator needs to be raised, we have longer spindles available that will drop the arm down a little bit further. Optional lengths are 50mm or 80mm, and they're ordered separately. We also have an optional arm extension for push applications where the reveal is greater than 8 inches. Our operator is an electromechanical operator as opposed to an electric hydraulic operator. One of the advantages of an electromechanical operator is that it assists on both the open and close cycles. If you're in an environment where wind may be an issue, the electrohydraulic operator may have trouble closing since it relies on a mechanical closer. An electromechanical operator's motor will assist on closing. Our unit includes a microprocessor controlled belt and chain drive which combine to provide extremely quiet operation. It's also rated for high traffic use. If someone doesn't activate the operator using a knowing act, the operator will function as a heavy-duty manual closer. The maximum door weight that the unit can handle for a 36-inch door push application is 438 pounds. You'll see a lot of manufacturers only list the minimum amount of 200 pounds required by ANSI, so they may or may not be able to operate with a 300 or 400 pound door. We have an internal supply of 24 volts DC capable of providing 1 amp plus. A lot of operators out there will only have a 24 volt supply, but they limit the current to 500 milliamps or even a quarter of an amp, which is really intended for a single strike or maglock. With our supply, we can power not just the strike or a maglock, but we can power our electric latch retraction kit and still have sufficient power for other accessories like a wireless receiver or a presence sensor. Another unique feature over our competitors is the easy setup self-tuning button or calibration button. This button allows the installer to mount the operator, then press this button for a short amount of time. The operator will go into calibration mode where it will self-adjust. It will automatically adjust the torque for different size doors and weights and different environments within a minute. In most cases, the installer can walk away after they've done this calibration. The setup also allows you to adjust the door travel. There are mechanical hard stops available on the operator, but you can also set soft stops by just putting your foot down while it's doing its calibration. You can set a soft stop during calibration and it will remember that stop and won't go past it during activation. The memory is non-volatile, so if you lose power to the operator or you need to switch it off for whatever reason, when you powered it up, it will retain all the calibration settings. Common features are easily configurable. Many operators on the market have complicated programming. For example, if you want to change simple settings like the opening speed or the door held open time, you have to go into several different programming menus. We've made a lot of the common features available by simply setting a dip switch on or by adjusting a potentiometer to save the installer a lot of time. Another nice feature is called closing force prior to unlocking, which is not common to most competitive operators. In an electric strike application, for example, you can't have any stack pressure on the strike keeper. When you want to release the strike, any kind of stack pressure will bind the strike and keep it from opening. On activation, our operator will actually pull back on the door for a brief amount of time, relieving stack pressure, and then allow the strike to release and the operator to open the door. The ANSI standard requires testing the operator up to 3,000 cycles. We tested our operator up to 1.3 million cycles from the fully closed position. Our operator has one of the best warranties in the business, 3 years on all mechanical and electronic parts. Most operators offer 2 years or even 1 year. Our starting list price is very competitive, $2,270 for all single operators in a standard finish, plus it's all made here in the USA. We'd like to emphasize that our operator can be installed by a single person. The motor drive assembly can easily be removed from the operator backplate by sliding out 5 hex bolts that run along the fixed tracks on the backplate. Once the motor drive is removed, we can attach the back plate on the back frame and then just take that drive unit and place it along those tracks. Then slide those bolts back on the drive unit. The operator has 2 electronic boards. One is the input-output board, or I/O board. The other is the adjustment board. A lot of the standard features are configurable via dip switch settings. Here are some of the most commonly used features. There are 2 dip switches on the I/O board. One of these controls the timing of the electric lock sequencing relay. If you're not sequencing an electrified lock, you don't want to delay on an opening, and this dip switch would be off. But if you would have to release a lock, then we can turn this dip switch on, and that'll give us a slight delay to make sure that the lock releases first and then the operator opens. This sequencer has been fully tested with the SCC electric latch retraction kit. We know that there's sufficient time for the latch retraction to fully pull back before the operator opens. The adjustment board has 10 dip switches. The default position for all the switches is the off position. Dip switch 4 enables the push and go feature. Push and go allows someone to manually push or pull the door open, and then the operator motor takes over. That can be turned on though, just a flip of a dip switch, no complicated programming. If this is off, you can use the potentiometers to adjust the open, close, and door held open times. If the installer doesn't want to deal with setting the times, he can flip this dip switch on and the operator will automatically set the open time, a close time, and the held open time to meet ADA standards. Dip switch 8 is the power close option, which gives you an additional force on the last 10 degrees of the closing to overcome a stack pressure. There are several available inputs on the I/O board. Here are the most commonly used inputs. There are 2 separate inputs for internal and external actuators. This is important because we can turn the operator off and ignore external activations, but still have an active internal device. We have a secondary activation input for a presence sensor. Ideally, this sensor is a door mounted on the approach side of the door. The auto IR, for example, will detect someone approaching the door while the door is closing. The sensor will recognize there's a person walking through and it will reopen the door. This is just a typical wiring diagram of the different devices. We've got an exterior and interior push plate, and we also have the auto IR. The auto IR does not need a separate power supply. 24-volt DC is coming right from the I/O board itself. There are diagnostic status LEDs associated with each input. This is great for troubleshooting tools. It allows us to know whether the input is active or not. So for example, there are 3 factory jumpers installed that by default provide normally closed connections. If one of these jumpers is not in place, the LED will not be on, and then you wouldn't be able to do a calibration setup. Or if someone called us and said, "My activation button's not working," we can look at the LED associated with the input and see a change in state on the input when the button is pressed. If we don't, then we can look at the activation switch possibly being an issue as opposed to the I/O board. We have a few outputs on the I/O board. The electric lock relay is used to sequence an electrified locking device like an electric strike, maglock, or electrified panic bar with latch retraction. We also have a door status relay to tell us the door is fully open or fully closed. This is another wiring example of the auto operator powering and sequencing a maglock or an electric strike. In this case, we would show a wireless receiver which is powered by the input-output board. There are some additional outputs. The one listed here is the fire alarm output tied to the fire alarm input. If that fire alarm input is activated, the door closes, the operator ignores any activation inputs, and this output activates. It can be used as notification to a remote panel. The outputs labeled "not used" are for future use. We have 3 potentiometers on the adjustment board. One adjusts the opening time, another adjusts the closing time, and the third adjusts the hold open time. Each one can be controlled individually. Exercise care that whatever adjustments are made meet the ANSI standard, or you can set dip switch 5 on and disregard the potentiometers. There are 3 diagnostic LEDs on the adjustment board. LED 1 and LED 3 will almost always be lit green if everything has powered up correctly. The adjustment board gets its power from the main input-output board by a ribbon cable connection. If that ribbon cable isn't connected properly, then you'd likely get a fault light on LED 2. LED 2 will normally be off. You'll get a fast flashing red light when you're doing your initial setup with the calibration button, or a slow flashing red light if there's some sort of fault. There's 2 external mounted function switches, with the first being the main on-off switch. It's just a switch in series with the main 120 volts AC circuit that's coming. When it's flipped on, the switch illuminates to let you know that it is on. When it's powered off, the operator still acts like a manual closer. The second external switch is the mode control switch. The operators may operate in one of 3 modes: On or automatic mode means the operator is waiting for a single form of a knowing act device or waiting for someone to open the door if the push and go is enabled. Off or night mode means the operator is working as a manual door unless it has been configured to open by an internal activation device. The third mode is the hold open mode, where the door stays fully open until the switch returns to one of the other modes. An initial calibration must be done before setting any dip switches or connecting any activation devices. Performing a calibration with the easy setup button starts by holding down the button for about 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, LED 2 on the adjustment board will start flashing rapidly, and then you may release the button. Within a few seconds, the door slowly starts to open. It will calculate the torque necessary to open the door. When the door initially opens, you can set a soft stop by placing your foot in the path of the door. Then remove your foot and allow the process to complete. Once it's done going through the process, LED 2 will go out. At that point, the door has been calibrated and you're ready to go. Non-volatile memory will retain these settings even if the power is disconnected. However, if the operator's stroke is altered in any way, you'll have to redo the setup. So if, for example, the installation of the arm ever changes position, then you'll need to run through the process again. After calibration, you may adjust your potentiometers, set any desired dip switches, and connect your auxiliary activation devices. Some additional installation notes. You'll want to do the calibration first, then you set your dip switches and your timers. Then you can install your other ancillary equipment like presence sensors, wireless, or wired activation buttons. If you power down the operator, the input-output board will not accept an activation until approximately 8 seconds after power. Speed and time adjustments using the potentiometers will not take effect until the door fully closes. Opening and closing force are a function of the automatic setup and are not adjustable. On initial calibration, the operator will set the necessary torque required for the weight of the door. There really is no other manual adjustment that can be made at this time. Here is a final wiring diagram showing our latch retraction kit and a wireless transmitter. The wireless receiver and the latch retraction kit, which requires 700 milliamps, can both be powered by the onboard 24-volt DC supply. The latch retraction kit is sequenced through the onboard electrical lock relay. Here is a comparison chart of the auto entry control with some of the other major manufacturers' operators. As you can see, we offer a fully featured operator at a very competitive price. The last part of the presentation covers all the accessories available for the auto operator. We have the Auto IR, which is a door-mounted presence sensor. It mounts on the approach side of the door and keeps the door from closing on someone. If, for any reason, someone needs additional time to get through the door, the sensor will detect a person going through the door and keep the door open. We have a few remote key lock and rocker switches. These are intended to be wall-mounted somewhat adjacent to the door. They can replace or be used in conjunction with the external operator switch. They basically perform the same function as the on, off, and hold open switch. So if someone complains about the external operator switch being out of reach, then a wall-mounted switch may be a better alternative. There are 3 models available: a single or narrow gang key switch model and a narrow rocker switch for lower security applications. We have a full line of operator activation switches, not just ADA compliant actuators. Some of them just say push to open. We have a variety of size and mounting options, including mullion mount, single gang mounts, a 4-inch square, 6-inch square, and round buttons. Those buttons can either be recess mounted or surface box mounted. We also have a 474 touchless switch with infrared sensor, very popular for clean room applications. Any one of those buttons can be mounted on a bollard as shown here. We also have a full-length touch panel button that can be monitored on a bollard. Any one of these buttons can also be hardwired or be configured as a wireless button using the transmitter and receiver combination shown here. We also have a couple of pre-bundled wireless activation kits that include all the necessary parts to control a single ADA opening. The kits come with the 2 buttons, 2 surface-mounted boxes, 2 transmitters, and a receiver. The only difference between the 2 kits is that one includes square buttons and the other includes round buttons. We also have a couple of CBC or California Building Code compliant kits. CBC requires that there be an activation device at a low height and at an upper height. We have a bollard type kit that includes both low and high buttons. And if you want to go with a wireless button option, we have a kit that comes with 4 separate buttons, 4 transmitters, and 1 receiver. So you can place a high-low button on the interior and a high-low on the exterior wall. If you have any questions, call us or visit our website for more information. Download our free SDC app for quick access to documents and to utilize our chat features in the DoorSnap app. With DoorSnap, SDC will customize same-day, full system solutions for you.